I've been in the ANC myself. I grew up there, and I don't want to insult it because it trained a lot of us to understand intricate motive forces in a struggle. And so I don't want to say to you, oh, the ANC is this, because the ANC is an amalgamation of different elements. And there's a character of the ANC that is genuinely involved in a struggle for national liberation. It's very thin, but it's there. There's a broad element of the ANC that I think is a conscious ally of capital. And there's a broad element in the ANC that is an unconscious ally of coloniality. And then there's an element in the ANC which I think is very dominant. I'm not saying it's many people, but it's dominant. It's people who sold out a long time ago. And that selling out, that infiltration of a liberation movement, which is always the desire of those who oppress others. That element in the ANC, it's not the only element. That element is in charge now. And that element has money. And that element buys others, silences others, or co-opts them. And that's where we are. But the ANC, you've got to analyze different elements in it. And there are counter-revolutionary elements in the ANC. They are conscious and unconscious. And we've got to analyze each motive force in this broad church. And then after analyzing what's there, which one is dominant, at what time? And the dominant one now is the one that protects capital. And if you really want to analyze it, because, South Africans handle debates in a binary fashion. You start from 94, you start with Mandela, and critique it, not criticize it. Critique that moment. It has elements of greatness, of a great breakthrough, but it also has elements of co-option and being an ally of the very system that we're trying to defeat. You come after that with the Thabo Mbeki one. I know Thabo Mbeki people see themselves as the sort of high-class, sophisticated intellectuals. That moment too has good things, but it was also an ally of Western modernity, which is why people who are in that area believe they are superior, they are the golden age. It's because they don't see their errors. It's the arrogance of that period of people who think they are superior intellectually because they believe in Western modernity. There is a Zuma era. It has errors. It disrupts the system. But that too has elements that you must analyze, that get into it, that have elements of counter-revolution. All of these presidencies, the three that I've mentioned, had good and bad elements of disruption, others to maintain. I don't want to talk about the current one. Because quite frankly, it represents the conclusion of a system where people are bought, where revolutionaries are completely bought. And those who are not bought are clapping hands, either because they were part of the selling out themselves or they benefit financially from the system. I always say, anyone who's my age, was in this struggle, is my age or older, and likes the current leadership of this movement. Two types of people. They worked with those who are in power during apartheid. They worked with them. Whatever they were doing, they worked with them. Or they benefit financially from the current setup. Both of which cause pain to the ordinary, struggling, black, African, poor person who trusts leaders of a revolution, even when they've sold out. You use an interesting word, rival. Maybe they are not rivals. Maybe white people in the DA and some of our leaders are actually not rivals. We just don't know when they cemented the relationship. So I actually don't think they are rivals, because policy-wise, there is no difference. Historically, there are differences. And I think an organization like the ANC that was truly at the heart, at the center of the anti-apartheid struggle is always vulnerable to infiltration. And I think that process of infiltrating and destroying the ANC that all of us grew up in is almost complete. I actually think it was completed a couple of years ago, and maybe decades ago. Maybe we get into post-apartheid South Africa with an ANC that is already, in some ways unconsciously, a project of the amalgamated agendas of foreign and law and domestic intelligence and capital. And our leaders, consciously or unconsciously, were eager to inherit a country that had stability. And in that desire to have stability, selling out happened, co-option happened, cowardice happened, and just the development of new interests. I was asking you guys now, where are our young people who've always liberated countries? We just vote. We are voting cows every 5 years. Sheer electoralism is not going to help us. This country requires a stop to this mess and a new philosophy of running things. And not the elitist things by these foundations, no, who are trying to reclaim the moment in order to ensure the continued survival of their funders and to reclaim our future once again, where people who have been part of the problem want to determine the solution so that they can recycle the problem. Our young people have a moment now to put a stop to this. And I'm saying young people because all people like myself and others are naturally cowards. We're looking at our interests, bonds, and all of these things. It's young people who have very little to lose, who take on countries and create better futures. And it requires just our young people to take on this government, to take on this philosophy which is neoliberal in character and taking us nowhere. We just need to grow a little bit of spine, some courage, not recklessness, courage to take on a government and bring it down lawfully.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. Want more awesome content? Follow us on all our socials at STK206.